Hey guys, so today I'm going to be showing you how you're going to be doing your short response. It's going to be kind of like a write-long, but not that extensive yet, because next week is when you're going to be doing the real write-long, but we want you to kind of practice with it today. So yesterday you should have completed your key ideas over your choice novel. So I want you to pull out that T-chart, pull it back out of your drive, and I want you to look at the important ones that you selected. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to open up number 3, which is the short response, and you're going to basically be choosing one of those key ideas, one of those important ideas that reflects your character. And I want you to expand on a quote in at least like 5 sentences. So one of the key ideas that you may have picked would have been like character related. So I want you to find a quote that supports the key idea that you wrote about. And then you're going to explain that here on this write-long assignment. So here it is. This is what your write-long is going to look like. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be filling out this MLA style. So I'm going to delete name. I'm going to put Michelle Chase. I'm going to delete this teacher part, and I'm going to put Miss Chase. And then it asks for class and period. So I'm going to put, I'm going to put English first. Let's say I'm in first period. And then today's date, which is going to be the 24th or 24 September 2020. Okay? So then what you're going to do is you're going to take one of those key ideas that you had, and you're going to write your key idea here about your character, and then you're going to, under here, a little bit further down, you're going to write a quote that can support your key idea. So I'm going to model this for you with hurricane season, since that is one that we all read together, and then I filled out those key ideas for you. So one key idea that I have pulled out here is that the narrator is learning to accept herself through the chaos. So that's going to be my key idea statement. And then underneath my key idea statement, I'm going to put a quote that I have to support that. So the quote that I pulled is, "I only came into my skin after I grew into this city like storm clouds rolling in." And I found that online because it's a poem. I'm going to put the line numbers 25 through 26. Okay, so that's how you're going to complete this little box here, right? Because it says in the box, write your question. It's not going to be a question though. It's going to be write your narrator, or write your key idea, and then write your quote that you have. I'm just going to delete that, and we'll fix that on the actual assignment. So yeah, you're going to fill that in there, and then this is where you're going to begin typing your paper, because the kids in class, they're going to have a sheet of notebook paper, and so they would put their sticky note here, and then they would write everything here. But because you're doing it on an actual Word document, we want to try and make it fair for everybody, so we're going to have you start here, and then it's going to be double spaced. So it says begin typing here, so I'm just going to delete this so that I can begin typing here. So I'm going to walk you through like how I would go about typing this out, and then that way you'll be able to go in and do it yourself. So I am going to start out with an introduction, right? Because at this point I can't just jump right into my paper or my write-long, my response, because no one's really going to know what I'm talking about. So I need to kind of give some background. You always want to try and give a little background, and that also helps fill space up a little bit. So I'm going to begin with my background. So I have the narrator in, oops, I don't know why I'm capitalizing that. The narrator in, and I'm going to put this in parentheses, right, because I'm quoting something, hurricane season, struggles to discover her identity because she is constantly surrounded by chaos, right? So if you remember from the poem, the very first line was she was born outside the eye of a hurricane. I can pull it up real quick so that way we can reference it, because you're going to have your book to reference. So I'm going to pull out this. Hurricane season poem. Here it is. Okay, so I'm going to pull this out. That way I have something to reference. Okay, so right here it says, my mother tells me that I was born outside the eye of a hurricane. And then she says here, my 9th birthday was suspended in space between cyclones. And then on my 12th birthday, I watched the bayou spill into Disney. So like she's constantly having to, almost every birthday she's spending, she has this chaos that's like surrounding her, right? This destruction. And so I'm going to say the narrator in the hurricane season struggles to discover her identity because she is constantly surrounded by chaos. So she's always having to like pick stuff up. So I'm going to start off with that sentence, and then I'm going to keep going and keep kind of giving that backstory. So I'm going to say, over the course of her life, she spends a lot of her birthdays bombarded by hurricanes. This brings about a tremendous amount of destruction and chaos to her life, because she is I'm going to explain myself, because she is constantly having to change and adapt to her surroundings. And then see, I've got autocorrect, so I'm going to autocorrect that. So here I've got my intro sentence, right? I've got a way to start it out, and then I'm going to start talking about some of the backstory. So I'm constantly going to refer back to this idea of the narrator learning to accept herself through the chaos. So I want to talk a little bit about the chaos that she's experiencing. So that's why I'm bringing up her birthdays and how she's constantly surrounded by this destruction and this chaos of her city. And then I kind of want to shift gears and move into the bulk of what I'm trying to get across. So I'm going to infuse a little bit of my opinion now and discuss why I feel like the narrator is learning to accept herself through this chaos. So I'm going to say, I think that she is constantly having to adjust to her surroundings and prepare for the next worst thing. And I'm going to put in parentheses, hurricanes. Okay? Therefore, it makes I'm going to say finding out I'm going to be specific, who she is, nearly impossible, because she has to overcome the chaos surrounding her. Okay, so now I want to insert my quote. So I'm going to scroll back up a little bit so I can see my quote. Like that. So the quote says, I'm going to say, however, however, the narrator I'm going to say the narrator's perspective shifts when she says, I only came into my skin after I grew into this city, like storm clouds rolling in. And then I'm going to put it in, cite my poem. I think I put too many spaces here. Okay. Oops. Okay, so I've got my intro, I've got the meat of my story, I've got my opinion. I think I'm going to take out this therefore. And I'm just going to start it like that because I already have however after here. Alright, and I need to get rid of that period because it needs to go over here. Awesome. Okay, so now I'm going to explain this quote a little bit. So I've talked about, let's see, it says, however, the narrator's perspective, so it says, however, the narrator's perspective shifts when she says, I only came into my skin after I grew into this city, like storm clouds rolling in. So I'm going to say, the narrator reveals that while she was working to rebuild, see, I'm already on my second paragraph, or on my second page. While she was learning, or while she was working to rebuild her city, she was also learning to reshape her own life and to make a change within herself, allowing, I'm going to put a period, I'm not going to keep going, allowing her to change within herself. This allowed her to accept who she is. I'm going to say this allowed her to become the person she is today. And that's it. So I'm going to read it through. So I've got my quote here, and it says, the narrator in hurricane season struggles to discover her identity because she is constantly surrounded, oopsie, I'm already found an arrow. She is constantly surrounded by chaos. Over the course of her life, she spends a lot of her birthdays bombarded by hurricanes. This brings about a tremendous amount of destruction and chaos to her life because she is constantly having to change and adapt to her surroundings. I think that she is constantly having to adjust to her surroundings and prepare for the next worst thing, hurricanes. It makes finding out who she is nearly impossible because she has to overcome the chaos surrounding her. However, the narrator's perspective shifts when she says, I only came into my skin after I grew into this city, like storm clouds rolling in. The narrator reveals that while she was working to rebuild her city, she was also learning to reshape her own life and make a change within herself. This allowed her to become the person she is today. So I've got my beginning, right? I've got my intro, which is just introducing the story because I don't have any, if some different person was reading this and they didn't have any backstory, they would need to know what was happening in the poem. So I gave my backstory, and then I gave a little bit of my own opinion of how I feel like this is an important key idea and why all of this, how I'm interpreting all of this, and then I dropped in my quotation, and then I explained that quotation a little bit. So that's what you're going to be doing too. You don't have to follow the same framework, but you do want to make sure that you're expanding on this idea, this key idea that you have here, and you're expanding it with some backstory. You're telling me a little bit about how or what your opinion of it is, and then you're also including your quotation that you have, and then you're going to give it a nice good close. So that's all that I have for you. That's how you're going to be doing this assignment. You are going to be expected to at least answer 5 sentences, make them substantial sentences. The more you type, the only more explanation that you're giving me, the better it's going to be, because then I'll have more backstory. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to y'all. Go ahead and click on that link here go ahead and click on number 3, which is the short response, this one, and go ahead and begin writing yours over your key idea. If you have questions, please send me a message via Schoology, and then I'll get to you ASAP. Y'all have a good one, okay?